The hosts feel it would be a little unkind to present this podcast without just a word of friendly warning. We are about to unfold the story of Frankenstein, a man of science who sought to create a man after his own image without reckoning upon God. It is one of the strangest tales ever told. It deals with the two great mysteries of creation, life and death. I think it will thrill you. It may shock you. It might even horrify you. So if any of you feel that you do not care to subject your nerves to such a strain, now's your chance to. Well, we've warned you.
Hello, and welcome once again to the Frankencast. I'm the mad scientist, Anthony Bowman. My pronouns are he, him, and I'm joined as always by...
The gravity that is your friend, that is Eric Velasquez. My pronouns are also he, him.
Oh, yeah.
What are we talking about this week, Anthony?
Yeah, so we're back. We're with Depraved, the second of the two Larry Fessenden Frankenstein movies. And it's I'd seen this one before, but it's been a while, and I had not seen No Telling. It's really interesting watching these two back to back, like seeing how much he has grown as a director, over the years. Like this is a whole different creator, and this movie's so good. Like I really enjoyed rewatching it.
Yeah, it's legitimately very good. I'm actually, and there's a lot of homage, of homage. So we're taking cues from the original Universal Frankenstein. We're taking cues from Hammer Frankenstein in the Eye. Mm-hmm. I mean, yeah. We're taking. Okay, so what was the one movie with the gay Frankensteins and Dr. Polidori?
Oh, Frankenstein: The True Story.
The True Story. This has to be with Polidori. This has to be a reference, right?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because there's no other reason to bring Polidori into things. Right. I felt like that had to be a nod.
Yeah, aside from, Mary Shelley, Polidori was famous, all that stuff. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. So that's what we believe.
Yeah. Yeah, because otherwise I feel like this character would have made more sense to be called Byron if you were going to do that. Like he more acts like Byron than Polidori. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah. But yeah, so we start out and you got this like record player, you're seeing like the record spin. The way that this opens is it's just like really kind of sets you in this world. Like the camera kind of pans up, you see like a bunch of like half finished plates of food on a table and
candles. So obviously there was something sexy or sensual, romantic happening.
Yeah, and then the camera kind of pans up and you do see that there is a couple having sex in a bed nearby. It's a really like well done sex scene that's like not gratuitous, but it feels like real. Like it's not like, a lot of movies like the sex scenes are either they're trying to be porny or they're trying to like not show you anything, but this is just like, this looks like two people who actually...
People having sex.
Yeah. And then like time kind of slows down and we just suddenly cut to the couple like talking. And at first I thought it was a flashback to before the sex, right. But as it goes, I'm pretty sure it's like after.
It's post-coital for sure, because she just looks at him and like admiringly and just says, "You'd make a good dad," which I feel like that's a compliment.
Yeah, because they're talking like he has like a grandma who is possibly dealing with Alzheimer's or at least just dementia. Like late stage, some kind of dementia, and he goes to visit her a lot and goes to visit the grandma, and so we'll find out his name's Alex, she's Lucy, and Lucy's like, the kindness that you have with your grandma, like I feel like you would be a great dad.
Well, apparently Alex has a little bit of a daddy complex because he is not about that. Mm-hmm. He shuts that shit down too quick. And he's like, no, you work in a museum and I'm a web designer of a company that's downsizing every week. What a situation to bring a kid into. And I'm like, that's an overreaction to like the nth degree, my man. She just complimented you. She wasn't saying, let's make a baby right this second.
Yeah, it felt like they've probably had previous conversations. He knows she wants kids eventually, and he's on the fence about it or definitely not ready yet. And, you know, it's one of
moving
those sore
in
subjects.
Apparently was a big deal.
Yeah, and so it was just, she brought up something that's a pressure point that probably anytime babies or children come up, it gets tense. And, you know, so yeah, sure enough, like, and it, you know, it's sad, you know, like it's this couple that, like, they care about each other. It's a very sweet moment, but, you know, then there's the tension, and he's like, I do want to move in with you. I do want to move forward. I do want to build our life together, but like kids, not yet. And
you've got to get more established, I guess, is what he's thinking.
Yeah, and you know, he's like, the night's kind of ruined at this point. I am gonna move in with you, but like I'm gonna go back to my old place for tonight. Like
now, because it makes sense because I have to go see Nana in the morning, right?
Yeah, and she's like, okay, that, you know, you can tell she wanted him to stay.
Yeah, and she's obviously hurt. Yeah.
Yeah, and then we find out that this whole night, this dinner and everything, it was his birthday they were celebrating, and she's like, oh, well, before you go, I didn't give you your gift yet. She pulls out this little box, and it contains a little necklace with like a pendant that has kind of like strange markings on it that are never fully explained, really. It's just they look kind of like runes or something. She puts it on him and everything, and like they leave in kind of a place where it's like we're okay, but we just need our space tonight. You know, like they're not fighting anymore, but they're just gonna take the night apart,
taking a breather.
Yeah. So he goes to walk back to his place. You know, it's like the city. He's walking down, like, he walks past like a power plant, walks along the sidewalk, right. And
he's playing with a ball. He's not focused on anything in particular.
Yeah. And it's one of those, like, just the way it's shot and everything, and the soundtrack and everything, you're like, something bad is getting ready to happen to this dude.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Especially when he starts texting her back, hey, sorry about that, you know, love you, all that stuff.
Yeah. And sure enough, as he's texting, a guy with like a trench coat and a hat, you can't really.
It's the motherfucking Shadow, like from the 90s.
Yeah.
Or before that, the radio plays and all that stuff. But yeah, it's like the Shadow just comes up and it's like stab, 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 stab.
Yeah, stabs him a bunch, and then we get like, this movie has a lot of like interesting sort of like digital flourishes that are kind of like layered on top of the film. Yeah, it's really interesting. Like, I think it does it kind of is trying to put you inside of a brain in a way, and it happens several times. And this is the first case where like we start to see his brain sort of shutting down as he dies. We see a lot of like flash
life before your eyes.
Yeah. But there's just kind of like digital weird swirly stuff over top of it that like you can tell.
I think it's supposed to be like the little spots you see every once in a while.
Yeah, it's like synapses firing almost. So yeah, then he falls down, and then we go to credits, and the credits are kind of similar to like the Reanimator movies. Actually, It's a lot of like medical diagrams and electricity flashing and stuff. And then I think, once we come back from the credits, we're just right to a Frankenstein-type creature waking up in a lab.
Right. We've got one milky eye and one normal eye.
Yeah. And he's like, got like a shaved head. He's naked. He's got stitches all over him. He like gets up and starts kind of just like stumbling around like we often see the creature do.
But he's a little bit more sure-footed than most other creatures.
Yeah. He's, you can tell like he's not quite comfortable in this body, but like more so than a lot of the ones we've seen. He's definitely like self-sufficient in a way that some of the creatures we've seen are not.
Right.
Like this lab is sort of, it's like got like plastic up as walls or whatever, and he kind of steps through. And
it's part lab, part Dexter's murder room.
Yeah, it's like just basically there's an apartment and somebody has like put up sheets to kind of like turn a part of the room into a lab.
Right.
And then a guy
almost full body shot of the creature the creature, we'll say for now.
Yeah, like from the back, so you can see, all the stitches and everything.
Sorry, folks, no dong in this one.
Yeah. And then a guy just comes walking into the room carrying like a paper sack of groceries and is stunned to see this creature standing there. He just drops the groceries everywhere and is like, wait, you're awake? You're alive.
Right. He's like actually excited to see him.
Yeah.
He's like,
yeah.
Hold on, let me get a picture. Let me snap a pic.
Yeah. So he's all excited and kind of like, this is very different than our usual Victor Frankenstein. Like this guy he's happy to see his creatures awake, and like he's happy to like, it's not, he hasn't had that switch where he's suddenly grossed out and upset about his monstrous creation. He decides to give him a name right away, decides on Adam, and he's like, I know that's a little on the nose, but I think it's right. I think you're Adam.
Yeah. Feels good. Right.
Yeah. And he like wraps him up in a blanket since he's naked and starts walking him around the apartment. And he's like, eventually we'll go out into the world, but for now you need to stay here. It's safe. I need to keep you safe. You need lots of rest so that your brain can heal. I want you to develop and grow. Like this is what you want the creator to do to his creation.
Right. He's acting like a dad, right? And absolutely. I do think it's interesting that he's specifically showing him the entire apartment. Mm-hmm. He's like, all right, it's like he's welcoming him into the world. Where most of the other ones are like, yeah, go back into your cage/cell. We'll deal with all that later.
Yeah, this is like, here is your world. Like, I want you to feel welcome here. I'm going to keep you inside, but it's for your own good. And, so I want you to feel like this space is your space.
And then, of course, as he lays Adam down, Adam has a little bit of a dream/nightmare about the old woman dancing, which we presume was Alex's Nana. Mm-hmm. And she gets moved to the side so the shaker can shake him again. So
yeah, and then we'll also hear, as that's going on, we get like little like sound bites of some of the conversations that Alex and Lucy had earlier. So we know that part of this new creation is connected to Alex. He looks different, so it's like presumably Alex's brain is it's never fully spelled out, but I feel like that's a pretty safe assumption that's what's going on here.
I feel like we're at 95% Alex. They just had to put in some extra parts here and there. And I do think that later on Henry will reveal that he's done some alterations to the brain a little bit.
Yeah. We're getting that from like him dreaming, and then we just see like the next day Henry, which so again, like you were saying, with this kind of like nodding to some of the classic movies and stuff, our Frankenstein is named Henry, not Victor. Mm-hmm. But he's like examining Adam. He has like a round of medication that he's giving him to help with the healing and everything.
He even talks about how everybody's medicated nowadays.
Yeah. And there's most of it's like, I think, various antibiotics and stuff to just help with all the healing and everything. But then there's one new experimental drug called Rap-X.
This is Polidori's magic, he said magic myosin? So is it derived from mushrooms?
Yeah, I don't know. I guess it must be. I think he even calls him your Uncle Polidori.
Right, he keeps calling him Uncle Polidori.
Mm-hmm. And then we get a little bit of like a montage, like after he takes the meds, Henry is teaching Adam with like children's puzzles, and they read like kids' books and stuff. He's like trying to help his brain develop all over again. He even like plays him some classical music, and I think we get more of like those like synapse firing overlay stuff. And then it's like once he hears the classical music, suddenly he's better with the puzzles. Like,
let's not skip over the fact that while Adam was trying to figure out the puzzles, like Henry was getting visibly upset, like, because this kid's not learning quick enough for me. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, Adam also pisses himself.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah, so he's like, okay, we got to fix this. Let's do it.
Yeah, so, he's definitely a, mental toddler at this point. Like, Henry's definitely having trouble. Which, like, I get it. Like, if you have this grown adult in front of you, it's hard to take a step back and realize that, like...
Yeah, this is not an adult.
Yeah, it's not. It looks like an adult. It's an adult body, but this is a child's mind that you have created.
But it is good that, Henry's willing to do that, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm not a parent, obviously, but, like, I feel like that's probably part of parenthood is, like, sometimes you get frustrated because you can see what you want the kid to do, and the kid's just not there yet. But you see that, and you might lose your patience occasionally, but you try to like keep going, and it does feel like that's what's going on with Henry. Like he lost patience, but he's not just like Victor often is, like, fuck this creation is trash, I'm done with it. He keeps trying. He keeps working with him. I think that's when he gives Adam a ball and has him drop it and is like, that's gravity. See, when you let go, it goes to the ground. Gravity, it's your friend. It brings everything to the ground. That's how you stay on the ground. So, but of course, we're seeing it's the same ball, or the exact same kind of ball that Alex was throwing when he was walking home. You get like, there's a connection there, and I think that's causing maybe some synapses to fire to like remind Adam what he used to be.
This is when we get Adam's first words, which are gravity. Gravity is your friend.
Yeah. And Henry's super excited about that. You know, it's been a little slow going, but like, yeah, hearing him speak, Henry's like, okay, we're making progress. This is going somewhere. I think Henry's very encouraged by that, which leads to the next sort of lesson, which is ping pong. So I mean, I guess like a hand-eye coordination kind of thing.
Absolutely.
This scene, like, over the course of a couple of minutes, like Adam goes from like not knowing what to do to being like very good at ping pong.
Right. Well, he tries to catch it first, right? He tries to catch it with his hands versus hitting it back.
You know, he's like, no, you got to hit it back. And so then they start going, and like he misses a couple times, and Henry's like, no, you gotta focus, you gotta hit the ball. And then it gets so good that like Adam manages to get one over on Henry, and Henry gets mad, and he's like, fuck, you know, you made me miss. And Adam kind of flinches, and he's like, no, sorry, I'm mad at myself.
Not you,
like
that's me.
You did good there. I you know, and so like Adam's already good enough that he is beating Henry at his own game. Yeah, I think Henry's impressed by that for sure.
Right. A little. He's obviously competitive, but he's also like, okay, that was my bad, not yours.
Yeah.
Put that on me.
I think in this scene, like Adam already has like hair grown back now. So like the timeline here, I think they'll say something like that. It's only been like 30 days or something, but like
Has to be longer than that.
It seems like to go from like fully shaved head to like a full head of hair. So yeah, some amount of time has definitely passed. We do still get like Adam seeing more, you know, memories of Alex.
Right, especially with the walking between the stacks with Lucy.
Yeah, there's like that felt like a memory, but also like a metaphor of a memory. Like I don't know if Alex and Lucy had been to the library together, but like it's a lot of stuff of like her sort of like, you know, she'll step around a corner and suddenly she's gone, and then, you know, he can't find her, and then he finds her again. It almost felt like the Mind Palace kind of thing, that she's just like, all these books are memories, and Lucy is lost amongst them and everything. But yeah, I thought that scene was really cool and kind of well done. And then we get like Henry talking on the phone. It's Polidori he's talking to. We're making lots of progress, but we're not ready yet. Like, you know,
more time.
Yeah. So we still haven't met Polidori, or we don't really know exactly what's going on there, but like clearly Polidori has some sort of interest in this project.
But of course, Henry doesn't appreciate the fact that Adam's kind of skulking around and catches him on the phone. Mm-hmm. So he's like, yeah, you need to not do that. Do not be out at night.
Yeah. And then I think the next thing we see him teaching Adam how to shave. And
how to button his shirt, kind of. Sort of.
Yeah, he like buttons it, you know, crooked, and Henry, like, it's, you know, Henry, rather than being like, okay, I'm gonna undo this and do it right, he's like, no, that's wrong, do it again, and like let him try and make mistakes and stuff. It seemed like he was a pretty good teacher.
Yeah.
And I think then we also during this sort of section of the movie, Adam starts filming things. Like he's kind of like experiencing the world through a camera as like a way to kind of like try to understand things, it seems like. So we get some scenes of him just like filming Henry, and he films them playing ping pong and some stuff like that. And then we get like Henry talking to Elizabeth on the phone. We have to have an Elizabeth.
Yeah, of course.
And he's like, yeah, you know, I want to see you too, but like this project is really, you know, it's taking a lot out of me. I really have to focus on the project. I'll see you soon, but I can't take the time away right now.
Right. So obviously still neglectful. This Henry, instead of being a Clerval, he is clearly a Frankenstein, or at least Frankenstein analog.
Yeah, absolutely.
But he has to go out and do some chores, I believe, at this point. Henry does.
Yeah, and so Adam's home alone. He's like kind of wandering around the apartment. He cleans the chalkboard where they are keeping their ping pong scores marked down. And then like I think Henry gets home a little later. He's got a bunch of Chinese food. Yeah. So they sit down and eat dinner, and after dinner, Henry removes Adam's stitches, so he's healing up well, which again, it seems like the stitches would have been ready to be removed way before the hair would have grown, but I don't know. Maybe these stitches are more complicated since it's like full body stitches versus a single incision. If you like cut yourself and get like 5 stitches in your hand or whatever, those come out in like a month. But
versus, aren't there like nowadays stitches that just kind of dissolve after a period?
Yeah, I know they do that with like pets and stuff. I think they probably do that with certain human stitches as well, depending on where it is and how that all works.
Maybe
because I know they
too extensive.
Yeah, but yeah, so he gets those pulled out. So Adam's developing nicely. While that's going on, Adam's like, "Why don't I remember being small? I was just here one day. I don't. What was before this?" And Henry's like, "Oh, you had some trauma that you experienced. You had brain trauma. Some of that stuff might come back."
Sorta.
Yeah, I mean, he's not lying, but it's a glossing over the reality a little bit. And then we get some of Henry's backstory. Since Adam doesn't remember his own, Henry decides to kind of share his, which is that he went to med school and then ended up serving in the military into the Middle East, and was like a field
they just
medic.
say vague Middle East because we're always over there at some point.
Right? Yeah. And so he's kind of like a field medic, and he saw some horrific shit, as you would. And I think that kind of like changed him and kind of gave him ideas about like handling death differently. So this is
that and PTSD, right? That kind of go hand in hand.
Yeah. Which, like, I mean, I think that works really well. Like in the novel and in most versions of Frankenstein, we get like, Victor lost his mom or almost lost Elizabeth or some combination of those two, and that's what inspired him to like defeat death. But here, if you've got a guy who's seeing gruesome, visceral, bloody death over and over again and is unable to save these people and gets PTSD from that, yeah, of course that's going to make him be like, I need to stop death. I need to defeat it somehow. Yeah. This feels like a better reason to become a Frankenstein than the the traditional version.
Would you mind if I took us on a small tangent?
Yeah, please.
So I feel like we should have more of this kind of Victor, right? Because the only other instance I believe that we have is from the book or the short story of Herbert West, where Herbert West was a field medic or a field doctor. And it's like, that would be interesting to explore that through the course of America's wars, right?
Oh, yeah.
Kind of how that would affect a Victor in those situations. Like, obviously, World War I would be prime time. That would be great. Then you also have, the other wars that go along with that.
And it would make sense because, like, I mean, like, usually Victor is not a traditional medical surgeon. A lot of times he never finishes school.
Right.
And, like, the kind of medics that you have on, in military situations, they're kind of making do. It's not perfect, sterile operating rooms. It's like, I'm using what I've got. It feels more like the way that Victor goes about his process. Like, I'm going to use what I've got at hand. I'm going to dig up corpses. I'm going to... so it feels like that would be a more natural fit. There is a novel that we'll probably read at some point called Frankenstein in Baghdad that is like... It's not American. It's like all... It's like a guy, in Baghdad during war times, like using corpses from, suicide bombings and stuff and trying to like make something... and it definitely feels of a piece with this, where it's like, if you're surrounded by death and trauma, right? Yeah, that you want to stop that and you want to preserve the people around you somehow. So, it does feel like something that should be explored more. I'm kind of surprised that we haven't seen this a lot more, since war never ends. There's always a war going on. People are always dealing with, the fallout of what that does to, the people we know and love.
You got to feed that military-industrial complex, you know what I mean?
Absolutely, yeah.
Fair enough. But yeah, so, of course, like you said, Henry remembers those that he saved and those that he lost. But also, I believe this is when he kind of brings Polidori back, or at least he mentions Polidori. We keep getting these mentions of Polidori. But of course, he's just a voice right now. That's the most we have of him.
Yeah, it seems like when he came back, he had some ideas, and that Polidori was one of the few people who was open to hearing these kind of unconventional ideas. Right. And yeah, like you said, it's just kind of like Polidori's sort of a specter in the background at this point. It's just like, we know he's involved somehow, but we don't know exactly to what degree or who Polidori is.
Yeah, but then we get a lovely... we cut to a lovely segment where we just look at the ping pong table, and we kind of hear the voices of Adam and Henry talking about their game. And then we get Adam's legs straight up in the air. I'm assuming doing yoga.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is part of Pilates or anything like that, but...
And he's in like little like Speedos, like tiny little
banana
underwear.
hammock, for sure.
Yeah, and he's just home alone, and then suddenly somebody comes in. It's a woman we've not seen before, and we find out this is Liz. This is
yeah, or Elizabeth, you know.
Yeah, and she's like, "Oh, who are I'm looking for Henry. Who are you?
Are you his friend?"
Yeah, and you know, of course, Adam can talk, but not much. He's still pretty nonverbal, and
well, this is also the first woman he's ever seen, technically.
Yeah, and I think she's pretty shocked to be around a practically naked man. I think she picks up a towel or a blanket or something and is like, "Here, please cover up." Please. Yeah, and he's kind of confused by that. He's like, "Okay." So she's asking him all these questions, like, did you serve with Henry? How do you know Henry? What's going on here?
Are you what Henry is spending his time? Are you who Henry is spending his time with? Or are you one of his friends from the war? You know, what's going on?
Yeah, and Adam just kind of is bombarded by these questions, and before he can process and answer, Henry gets home and is like, "What are you doing here, Liz? I told you I need time. Like, I can't see you right now. You shouldn't be here. You should have called. You can't just show up unannounced. This is my workspace."
How did you even get in here anyway? And she's like, "You gave me the keys, dude."
Yeah.
He's like, "Oh, yeah.
And he's like, "Adam, why don't you go to your room? We've got to talk." So
we do get a little bit of he should be in the VA in Washington. I'm assuming either he should be working there or being seen for his trauma, or both.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, we'll find out that Liz is some kind of mental health professional. I don't know if they ever fully say if she's a therapist or a psychiatrist or what, but like she has some kind of knowledge about that and is like, "Henry, you have PTSD. You need to be taking care of it. And yeah, you have these medical abilities, and rather than this weird science stuff, you're trying these experiments. You should be helping other soldiers like you who need physical care. Like, you could be getting the mental health care you need and helping others, which would be fulfilling for you. So yeah, that'd be better than locked away in this weird apartment by yourself and, you know, whatever's going on here."
Right, but who even told you, Liz, that I was here? It was Paula Dory. Paula Dory invited me here. So, we see the beginnings of his manipulative personality.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And she's like, "Haven't you been paying attention? He's been all over social media. He's tweeting all kinds of stuff about this experiment being ready." And Henry's like, "It's not even close to ready. He should not be telling anybody about this." Yeah. You know, obviously he's not happy about that. And like you said, you know, it seems like Polidori is somebody that Henry is maybe tolerating because he's useful, but like is kind of frustrated with the way that relationship's going.
Well, we'll learn why, because Polidori is his own special brand of awful. Sorry, I didn't even mean to say awesome. He's not that.
No. And as they're talking, Liz is like, "Wait a minute. Is he? Did you do it? Is he? You managed to do it?" You know, Henry's like, I'm still working on it, and she goes into Adam's room and is like, I'm sorry that I scared you. I didn't realize who you were and what you're dealing with right now. I didn't mean to come in and shake things up." You know, Adam's kind of like you said, this is the first woman he's seen, so he's kind of like just sort of in awe of her. And so I think Henry at that point is like, let's go. Let's leave Adam alone." And so they step outside, they leave the apartment, and Adam decides, "I want to know what's going on. I'm going to follow them." The layout of their building is very strange. I had trouble exactly understanding what was going on here, because he steps outside of a door, and it seems like an apartment where, like, you know, it almost looks like a motel. Like there's another another door right next to it. But then he ends up in like a basement area that has like a bunch of, which I know some apartment complexes have this, where there's just like chain link fence where everybody has their own sort of like storage locker area.
But Henry has something special in there. He has a cot and all of his old war memorabilia.
Mm-hmm. And then further down the hall, there's just like a room that's almost like a man cave. It has like neon signs and like, you know, a couch. It's like a chill hangout space in this weird storage basement area.
Yeah. Super ultra modern hangout space.
Mm-hmm. And, you know, so Adam finds this, and in there we have Henry and Liz, but also we finally meet Polidori and his wife, Georgie.
I like how they point to the back of Polidori's head and pans around like this is some super huge actor. It's like, this is just a guy. Like,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. I recognized him, but I did not look him up.
yeah, Joshua Leonard is the actor.
Okay. He's definitely been in something else I've seen, but like not, he's not a that guy actor. Like I feel like I've seen him in a thing, but not like a dozen things.
He's been apparently in quite a few TV shows, but Criminal Minds, stuff like that.
Oh, the main thing that you would recognize him from, although he doesn't really, like he's aged quite a bit since then, is he's one of the people from the Blair Witch Project. One of the the people stuck
he's
in the
that
woods.
Josh.
Yeah.
Oh, that's why it was a pen. Sorry. Oh no. I feel bad about that.
I mean, he looks quite a bit different. It's been, several years. He was also recently in the movie Torn Hearts, which was really good. He's like a country singer in that. I think that's probably what I more visibly recognized him from because he looks more similar.
It's literally been almost 20 years since Blair Witch. Ah!
Right. Yeah.
Heck, it has been 20 years. Yeah.
Yeah. But so yeah, we've got these two couples and they're kind of discussing their work, and like you said, you can kind of tell right away. Polidori, like I said earlier, he's more of a Byron. Yeah, he's talking a lot of shit and just like he definitely very charismatic, thinks he knows everything, and is happy to talk extensively about anything.
Yeah, even stuff he doesn't know about. But he's especially excited because hey, we're going to be on the front page of the paper. We're going to be on like front page of all the news websites. Maybe we'll get to the front of Twitter or Facebook. Who knows?
Yeah, he's like, we're going to make big money off this project. It's going to be huge whenever we announce. Right. And Henry keeps kind of downplay it, like it's not ready yet. It's not time. And then Adam just comes strolling in. And Polidori's like, wait, is that him? Like it seems to be
the guy?
done. Like, yeah, and so Henry's like, yes, Adam meet Polidori. Polidori, this is Adam.
Right. And I like how Polidori's first conversation is all not to Adam at all. It's only to Henry. And he's like, does every part of him work? Like, especially the cacamals?
Yep, right away. Yeah, that's like the perfect way to start that, because you know exactly what kind of dude Polidori is from that. Like that's his first concern.
But I hate that he's the creepy bisexual. let's even out the creepy with like a good bisexual, please.
Right. Yeah. And he's like, again, because he's just talking to Henry. He's like, can he talk? Does everything work? And Henry's like, yeah. And he gets, I forget what he has Adam say, but it's some, it's just like something very simple, like, I am Adam, nice to meet you, or something along those lines.
Oh, I'm getting better all the time.
Oh yeah. And he's talking very slow, and it's like it's pain. It seems like it's painful for him to speak at this point. But so Henry's like, all right, you've met him. Now you know how we're progressing. I'm going to take him back upstairs where he's safe. And
right.
So he
gives him a sedative too.
Yeah, he's like, you can't be wandering around like that. You need to stay inside where it's safe. Puts him to bed and everything. And then it's like a little later, Polidori and Henry are discussing the Rap X drug.
Right. But Polidori versus actually like having a decent conversation is like, we need to take him out on the town, show him the world.
Yeah, and Henry's like, no, like, I was so concerned about making this creation that I didn't think about like what he would be and how to like let him be a person and teach him to be a human and a man and like
He
and
literally says, I got wrapped up in the challenge and didn't know what to do after we succeeded.
Yeah, and Polidori's like, oh, you're such a good dad, which is, a nice little echo back to Alex being told that he would be a good dad. Mm-hmm. Henry's like, no, but, like he is he's a living thing that we need to treat as more than just an experiment.
Right. Even his morality starts kicking in and is like, we've got to stop giving him the Rap X. This experiment's over. We're done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Polidori just keeps going on about like, no, he needs to, like, if you want him to be a rounded person that exists in the world, let me take him out. Let him see the world. You can't just keep him locked up in here all the time. And Henry's like, okay, yeah, you're right. I guess that makes sense. So he lets Polidori take.
Well, Adam sneaks his way back into the conversation. Apparently that sedative didn't do enough.
Yeah.
They shake hands, but Adam almost breaks Polidori's hand.
Yeah. So then we just see them out like they're in a car. Adam's got like the window rolled down. He looks like a dog or like a kid, like he's just like seeing the world, and there's just so much to take in after just only being in this one little apartment for so long.
Yeah, and they're clearly going into New York.
Mm-hmm. And I was kind of surprised, and like it was like, oh, this maybe Polidori's not as awful as he seems. Because the first place he takes him is the Met, not to bars or clubs or whatever. He's like, I'll show you some art. I will show you like man's ability to create, what we do when we're inspired.
Well, this Polidori is kind of a classy kind of scumbag because he does take him to the Met, but he also starts discussing how ever since the beginning of humanity, it's just been war and warring. And also, hey, check out her assets,
Yeah, it's a lot of like, nude paintings and paintings showing war and violence. And as all this is going on, again, we see a lot of those like overlays that like, new pathways are forming in Adam's brain as he's seeing all of this stuff.
Right. We even go over, hey, the grape of the Sabine women appears again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's fun.
Yeah, I don't know why that keeps coming up, but yeah, sure enough, here it is.
Yep.
Then the last thing he shows him at the Met is they have a collection of like rare and antique weapons. Polidori's like, this is, our legacy. Depraved, that's what we are. So
he said the thing.
Yeah.
Get the title.
And, so obviously Polidori is very fascinated by, humankind's ability to, hurt other people. So,
right.
He wants Adam to understand that. So they're getting ready to leave, and like as you do, you exit through the gift shop. Do they buy like postcards or something?
Well, Polidori specifically picks out a postcard with a woman's bare ass from one of the paintings, right. And he's like, "Yeah, I got to take this for home. So you got to get a gift, not for my spank bank later."
Right. And who is the checkout girl?
Is that Lucy?
That's Lucy.
Oh, wow.
And there's Adam, definitely like recognizes her from his dreams, but he doesn't quite know why he recognizes her or how he knows her.
Yeah, and she doesn't seem to recognize him either, though, but that's also because he's on HGH, and he's probably about a good, 1.5 feet taller?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's... But there, you do get a sense that like Lucy is like, I feel like I should know who this is, but I don't. Like, there's some sort of like inherent connection there, but it doesn't. She definitely doesn't recognize the person standing in front of her, so she's just kind of confused.
Well, the lights partially like go on once he starts mussing with his hair, because that's what he did earlier right before he left.
Yeah, we didn't mention, but that's like what he does when he's nervous is he would like kind of tug at his hair. They pay and they leave. Then I think the next thing is Polidori takes Adam to a strip club.
Yeah. Orders 2 whiskeys.
Yeah, so now Adam is getting his first drink of alcohol, and after only really ever interacting with Liz and now a little bit Lucy, he is in, a room full of women who are not wearing any clothes. And
right. Now, Polidori specifically takes him to a woman named Stormy. Is this a reference to, the shithead?
Yeah. Yeah, well, this movie was 2000... Was it 2009? So it would have been.
Is it 2009?
I thought, or maybe it was.
Check.
Oh, 2019. No. Oh, so yeah.
See?
Yeah.
See? It had to be.
Yeah. Very well could. Yeah. Is she the girl that Adam does kind of get interested in? Because there is one girl that he like really kind of like makes a connection with. They don't talk or anything, but like he just kind of has his eyes on this one particular girl, and I can't remember if that was Stormy or if that was another girl, but Polidori gives him money. I feel like it was
another girl because I think Stormy is the bartender.
Okay. But yeah, there is a particular dancer who like kind of makes eyes at Adam, and Adam kind of seems interested back. But that's part of the experience, right? Is like it's not going to go anywhere, but like he feels like he makes a little connection with her, and Polidori gives him some money.
Gives him some ones.
Mm-hmm. And Adam kind of like nervously tucks it into her G-string like you do. I think they leave after that, right? Yeah, we just see them outside a little later. Polidori's like, we're going to do this more. Like, you're going to see more of me. I'm going to make sure that you're not locked away in that apartment all the time.
Yeah, but also, check this out, man. Henry's going to tell you not to take this Rap-X stuff. Don't let him do that. Find where he's hiding the Rap-X and just just chug that stuff 3 times a day.
Yeah, the big red pill, 3 times a day. Henry might not care about you, but I do.
Right. Manipulative bullshit.
Mm-hmm. And he says, that's the funny thing about fathers. So few are in it for the long haul. So yeah, he's definitely like kind of trying to like edge his way in between Henry and Adam.
Yeah, he's trying to... The man likes to throw up wedges. Like he was playing golf.
Right. And then, like, to just kind of further emphasize that, like, Polidori is not really that concerned about, like, Adam's well-being and health and everything.
Yeah, they go do cocaine about it.
Yeah, they do some cocaine, which, Adam is, like, his brain is definitely too new to be processing cocaine, like, regardless of anything else. Like, you don't give children cocaine for a reason. Like, that's not the time for that.
Kind of messes with development, I think.
Yeah. And they're at like a dance club, and while they're dancing, Adam is kind of like, I think the cocaine is causing his brain to sort of like fire, and he kind of relives the night. He sees stuff from the Met and the strip club, and it's all kind of mixing together into this like soup of like sex and violence and just like the intense emotions that humans deal with in positive and negative ways.
Right.
The next morning, Polidori is dropping Adam off, and Henry is like, where have you been? Like, I've been worried sick. You were supposed to...
Well, he literally told them, don't keep him out past 6 p.m. Clearly,
Right.
The guy brought him in at 6 a.m.
Yeah. Polidori's like, you should keep an eye on him. He said some weird stuff about Liz. He might be volatile.
We didn't mention, this was originally Polidori's prompting. He's like, hey, have you seen any women?
At the strip club, yeah. He's like, do you know many girls? And he's like, I know Liz.
Polidori's using that as his excuse to drive another wedge.
Mm-hmm. And he's like, because he said something weird about Liz out of the blue. So you should ask him about that. And no, he didn't. He said a fact. The only girl I've ever met is Liz. He didn't say like, I have weird urges about Liz or want to hurt her or whatever. He's just, that's the only girl I've ever encountered. But yeah, again, it's the wedge. He wants Adam to distrust Henry, and he wants Henry to distrust Adam so that he can get right in there between them.
Right, and hopefully they both trust him.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
If anyone ever tries that maneuver, I want to tell you, it doesn't work out, ever. Because once they stop distrusting each other, or after the blowout of them distrusting each other, they'll always distrust you as well.
Mm-hmm.
Don't
Absolutely.
do this.
So then we just have, like, Adam, obviously he's been up all night, he goes to sleep, and he dreams of Lucy. We get little bits more of, like, memory and just, him seeing her at the museum and everything. Then Liz comes by to check on him, and Henry is out, so she wakes him up, and she's like, I just wanted to check on you, see how you were doing.
Yeah, we find out Adam's a naked sleeper.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and also, hasn't really learned modesty yet, is not feeling like he should be covered up, so he just gets up out of bed, and Liz is like, oh, like, it goes from like, that's not good, to like, I'm kind of into this. I'm kind of okay being here with naked Adam.
She's like, have you felt any pain? Touches his chest gently.
Mm-hmm. And, before we had him in underwear, and she was like, you should cover up, and now she doesn't try to cover him up. She's not taking any pains to get him, clothed.
Right, well, she also doesn't stop Adam when he starts mimicking what she's doing, and he touches her chest. Mm-hmm. She's like, okay.
Because she says, how do you feel? And he was like,
yeah.
I feel with my hands. And he puts his hands on her, which...
Yes.
Yeah. And he starts to unbutton her shirt, and she's fine with that. Like, she's not trying to stop him. And she's like, do you have any pain? And he's like, oh, yes, I have many pains. Like,
well, also she's like, oh, as he gets a boner.
Yeah, there's some stuff going on below frame, and you don't know exactly what's going on. But yeah, it seems like she might touch him below the frame of the camera there. But yeah, she's definitely like okay with what's going on in this moment. Like, it's a very consensual moment between two people, even though it'd be hard to call Adam an adult.
Right, yeah.
But
pretty gross on her part,
but yeah, it doesn't feel like she's preying on him the way that it plays, and like, she doesn't feel like she, we've had a lot of things where Frankenstein monsters, assault women, and this is not what's going on here. This feels like a very...
Luckily, we just cut to them cutting apples and talking about it.
Yeah, so we don't know what happened, but we can kind of assume what happened.
He had his first experience.
Yeah. Yeah, they're making food and they're kind of talking, and then Henry gets home and is like, "What are you doing, Liz? Like, you're not supposed to be here. We've already gone over this." And she's like, "Yeah, but he was alone. Like, he, you can't just leave him by himself. He needs to have people around him."
And this is when Henry's like, "Hey, you need to stop trying to fix him. You can't fix him. You can't fix me. You can't fix anybody."
Mm-hmm.
Which is, all right. I mean, that may be her job, sir, so step off.
Yeah, and I think Liz is starting to get, like, to a place where she's like, I don't know if you have Adam's best interests at heart. Like, I'm skeptical of how you're treating him at this point. So they kind of start, like, fighting about that. And it feels very, like, Henry is looking at this very academically. It's a very, like, brain versus heart kind of argument. Like, Liz is like, you need to love him and care for him and treat him as if he is your child.
She already sees that Polidori's trying to manipulate both of them, and she calls it out.
Yeah. It seems like if Henry and Liz had worked together on this project instead of Henry and Polidori, it would have been better for everyone involved. But that's not how this played out, unfortunately.
But to be fair, if it was Liz and Henry working on this project, we wouldn't have a movie.
Right. Yeah, there would be a lot less tension. Again, they fight about that he should be working at the VA and helping there. Henry sends Liz away again, and then he kind of sits down with Adam and he's like, you deserve a normal life, you deserve freedom. We'll get there, but like, I'm still trying to figure out how to do all of this. Like, I'm not a parent. I'm not prepared to raise you in this way, but like, I know that you deserve more than you have right now.
Well, Adam decides he's going to stretch some of his agency and finally says, "I want a girl like that, like the other girl."
Yeah,
presumably Lucy, actually, versus Liz.
Yeah, because he says like, "You have a girl, I want a girl."
So we get that part from the creature.
Yeah, and like Henry doesn't really like it. Kind of just cuts away. Then we don't really get Henry's thoughts or his response there. It's a little later. Adam is like by himself again, just like channel surfing on the TV. And eventually falls asleep in the chair, and then Henry gets home, wakes Adam up and starts performing the checkup and everything, and Adam's like, "Oh, it's time for my meds," and Henry's like, nah, you're all better, you don't need the meds anymore. And he's like, "Red pill 3 times a day." And Henry's like, "No, you don't need them, like, you're okay." Obviously the stuff that Polidori set in motion is coming together exactly as he intended.
But instead of giving him his pills, Henry decides, "Hey, I've got this thing for you. It's this necklace that you had before."
Yeah.
So clearly someone loved you.
Yeah. So obviously this is the necklace from the beginning of the movie. It's another thing where it's like, okay, this is connecting old memories together again. Like it's bringing something up. Is it like the next day Adam is scrolling through a phone? He's like looking at pictures of them playing ping pong together and videos, and he keeps scrolling back. And there are videos of his creation. He's seeing a corpse that is all cut up and being stitched together and everything. And
he sees somebody bring in a body, and he's like, "What's that?" And we do see a cut up corpse. Yeah,
so he's definitely figuring out where he came from in a way that he was not expecting. Obviously, that's a pretty hard thing to process, I'm sure.
Especially when you see your own face on the operating table.
Mm-hmm. And he sees, most importantly, the person carrying the body in is wearing a trench coat and a wide-brimmed hat. And then he sees, and then he sees that person is Polidori.
So Polidori got him. It wasn't Henry.
Yeah. Oh, and then he also finds Alex's wallet.
Well, he goes on a tear through the loft. He's like, "I'm going to find fucking everything." He finds his old wallet. He finds his ID. He finds his old cell phone.
Mm-hmm. And, of course, the wallet has Alex's ID. It has photos of Lucy, and he's like, "Oh, that's the girl I saw at the museum." Mm-hmm. So, he opens up the phone, and, like, the last call was to someone named Lucy, and he calls it. And, of course, we only see Adam's side of this, but, in Lucy's world, her phone has just rang, and she sees her,
it has Alex's,
it says Alex.
Name.
Yeah, who has been dead or missing or dead for months, however long.
Yeah, at least 1 month, if not multiple.
Yeah, so when she answers, she's like crying immediately, like, "Alex, where are you? Are you okay?" And, of course, Adam is just kind of like, goes sort of nonverbal, like, this is way too much to process at this point.
Can we get some sympathy for Lucy? because she gets fucked around in this movie so much.
Yeah. I mean, she kind of becomes like a background character through the whole thing. But yeah, if you think about this whole movie and what her side of the story would be, like, it is just heartbreaking, everything that she's dealing with. Like this scene, you know, again, is just, we're only seeing Adam. We never see her. We just hear her voice. But like, yeah, if you put yourself in her shoes, like, this would be a hugely traumatizing moment. Just getting that call, hearing someone breathing but not talking, not, you know, is he trapped somewhere? Is he, you know, what's going on? Like, of course, I think he, you know, Adam just ends up hanging up, like he never says anything. Very upsetting moment. I think Adam then just smashes the phone. So like,
oh yeah, and he's like, "Fuck this, I'm out."
Yeah, he's very upset. Like, he has seen a lot and heard a lot in the past, you know, hour or two. His entire world has just been shaken up. So he goes to Polidori and Henry, who are like talking about the work and everything, kind of arguing a little bit. And Adam's like, "I know what you did. Like, I'm aware of this whole situation at this point." And they're both kind of like stunned and just stand there. And he just like leaves. Adam just rushes out of the apartment, runs away.
Right. Well, he throws Polidori a little bit and gets past the investors as well.
Oh yeah, there is just like an investor guy. So he's gone. Henry's like, "I'll go find him." Polidori's like, "Yeah, okay, you find him. I'll talk to I'll square everything away with the investors." Like, obviously, I mean, this is pretty clear. Henry actually cares about Adam. Polidori cares about the experiment and the money that's going to come from it. Clearly, like, Henry sees Adam as a living person that they're raising, and Polidori just, he's like, I just want the investment to pay off. I've put way too much into this. And this is where he says it's been 30 days, and I really push back against the idea that it's only been 30 days. But
right. In that short amount of time, it's been 30 days, he's basically lived the life of a toddler. There's no way this is less than a year, right?
Yeah, it feels like that. But Polidori's like, regardless of if you find him or not, I'm taking the laptop, I'm taking the hard drives, I'm getting my investment back.
And then he's like, "I'm going to go upstate for the weekend." Translation, "I've abandoned you. Goodbye."
Yeah. Henry is, again, just more like, I care about Adam. Like, I want to make sure he's okay. He's not happy about the experiment information and data being taken away, but he doesn't have time to deal with that because there is an actual person who is hurting and lost, and that's the priority.
And honestly, like, as they split, Henry does the responsible thing, calls Liz and like, "Hey, you know, I'm going to go hunt for him, but just in case, be at the loft, in case he shows back up."
Yeah.
So they're co-parenting. They're doing a good job co-parenting, at least.
So Henry kind of runs out into the street and is calling for Adam and looking, and we see Adam's kind of hiding behind like it's like a parking
trash can.
Yeah, it ends up Henry is looking for Adam, but actually Adam's following Henry, and you know, Henry's not aware, obviously.
Well, that is until Henry decides, hey, you know what could help this? A little bit of liquid courage or liquid steadiness.
Yeah, so he goes into a bar and has like a quick drink and then heads right back out. And once he leaves, Adam's like, what's this place about? So he goes in. He's obviously never been in this kind of public situation without someone there as like a guide. So he's kind of awkwardly standing there, and the bartender's like, "You gonna order something?" And Adam's like, "Whiskey. I've heard of this. I know what this is. I'll just say whiskey." The bartender's like, "How do you want it? Rocks? Top shelf? What are you looking for?" And he's just like, "Yeah, all that's fine."
By the way, we also get a brief cameo from the director / writer here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Larry. Yeah, he's just one of the barflies sitting there, doing a good old fashioned like Alfred Hitchcock cameo. Mm-hmm. The bartender is obviously like, okay, this guy doesn't know anything, but he gives him a drink. Because as soon as Adam walks in, there's a girl in the back of the room that Adam notices, but he gets to
manic pixie goth girl.
Mm-hmm. But the bartender interrupts, wanting him to order before he goes into the bar. But then the girl just strolls up and is like, "Hey, I noticed you. Let me buy you a drink. You look like Iggy Pop, and I am into that."
Yeah. He's like, "I like all those old bands. Have you heard of the Stooges?"
Yeah.
She's got good taste, I'll give her that.
Yeah. And we find out that her name is Shelley. So it's another nice little nod. And she's like, "Why don't you come back to my table?" So they go sit down.
She explains she's done all the puzzles in the place except for this one, I guess.
I thought this was kind of funny. I've seen other Fessenden movies, but it's been a while. I was thinking about we talked about in No Telling, there's that puzzle box, and it didn't really build to anything in that movie. It was just there. And this is almost like it's a very similar kind of puzzle box here on this table. So I don't know if that's like a thing he likes to put in movies, or maybe he feels like puzzles are sort of metaphorical Frankensteins, cut up things put back together or whatever. But I thought it was nice that it was in both of these two movies. Of course, we had earlier Adam trying to learn on like children's puzzles, but now this is obviously like a more adult puzzle. That he's looking at, and she's like, you have a lot of scars. What happened to you? Where'd you get all of those? Of course, Adam's still not very eloquent, like interacting with people. He kind of talks to her, but he's speaking very simply and not really giving much information away to her.
Yeah.
He tells her his actual name is Iggy right after she says that she likes Iggy Pop, and she's just like, okay, sure, fine, whatever.
Right. She thinks he's playing a game, but Adam's like, yeah, whatever. And maybe he is. Maybe he's actually trying to spit some game at her.
She says something about tattoos, and he's like, I have a tattoo. She's like, what's it mean? What's the story there? And he's like, I don't know. It's just there.
Well, she says something about Odysseus, I think, and I'm like, and then she's like, it's like rebirth and all that. I'm like, isn't that Orpheus? Is that what she meant? Orpheus?
Yeah, I'm not, because it looked like the tattoo was, it almost, like, you never really get a good look at it, but it almost looks like the medical sort of, like the staff with the serpents coiled around it.
The staff of Asclepius.
Okay, so that might be what she said then.
Maybe. The audio was a little weird at points.
Yeah. And it might have been something. That's kind of what it looks like. It's something long with something coiled around it on his forearm.
That makes more sense.
But yeah, either way, he's just like, I don't know what it means. It was just there, and she's like, oh yeah, I've had nights like that, but none of mine have resulted into tattoos. So I guess I should be glad about that. And then she's like, I'll go get us more drinks. And when she comes back, he's like done the whole puzzle, like just put it together really quick. And she's like, you're really good at puzzles, and you're really smart, and you're pretty weird.
But I'm into that.
yeah. She's definitely like. She's definitely down with it. Like, it's one of those things where like he's not giving her much to go on, and she's still prompting the whole way through because she like wants to do something with him. And she's like, you just like what's your deal? Like, you seem you're pale. You're just kind of like. He's like, yeah. I stay inside. I play ping pong. That's pretty much it. Like, I don't do much. And she's
Respect.
like, what? Yeah. She's like, what are you, like a vampire or something? And he's like, I don't know, maybe. And she's like, if you don't know, then yeah, you're probably a vampire.
Right. Which you're either drunk or you're crazy, right?
Yeah. I think this is a case where it's like he kind of like accidentally has game because he's just so mysterious that she's like into it.
It's like, no, technically he's a toddler.
Yeah. And she's like, why don't I'm ready to go. Like, why don't you can walk me home. Like, we don't have to part ways just yet.
Do you want to stay here or walk me home? Giving him the option. Seeing he's really into her. Yeah,
and he's like, yeah, sure, I'll walk you home. And so they start walking through the streets, and, they're kind of, it's still mostly her talking at him.
He even prompts her to hold hands, though. And she's like, we're going to hold hands? That's cute. It's like, cute things happen right before bad stuff happens in these kind of movies.
Right. They get to her apartment, and he's like, "Oh, I live close to here too. Actually, why don't we go to my place, and then we can play ping pong? I love ping pong. You should come play ping pong with me."
She's like, I want to go home.
Yeah, that seems like a little too much. She doesn't know enough about this guy to trust going back to his place.
Right. Going to her place, safe. His place, obvious danger, risk of abduction.
Yeah, and so he keeps trying to drag her down the alley, and she fights, and in the process, he kills her. So then he just drags her to, or no, he just sits on the sidewalk with her, right? He's just like laying there with her body.
Well, he basically goes back to the loft, but not to the loft, outside the loft.
Yeah, that's where, and Henry finds him sitting on the sidewalk, and Adam's like, I want her to be my girl. Like, can you fix her? Yeah, Henry looks at her and is like, no, that she's been dead way too long. It's not going to work. Of course, that's really upsetting to Adam. He kind of starts to fight. Henry ends up injecting him with a sedative in the process.
Right. He sneakily tries to give him the sedative, and Adam is like, fuck you! And he starts trying to choke Henry to death.
The sedative starts kind of kicking in, and like he starts kind of like loosening his grip and kind of falling down. And, Henry's like, you don't exist in the system. there's no record of you. You're not real as far as the world's concerned. Like, I can do whatever I want to you. Like, if you're out in the world, like, hurting people, like, I can remove you from the equation.
Quite literally, I brought you into this world. I'm going to take you out.
Yeah, absolutely. Then we see, again, the synapse firing stuff and little bits of memories of Lucy. And we specifically get one of the last things that Alex said to Lucy before he left. I will move in with you, but I'm going to head home for the night. We've got tomorrow. And of course, they didn't. They did not get tomorrow. But he has a memory of saying that to her. And from there, we just cut to flashbacks of what Henry experienced. Yeah. So now we're seeing Henry in the war, and he's trying to save a soldier who's dying. And he's, it's one of those things where, like, you start asking people questions to kind of keep them from realizing what's going on.
Yeah, what's your name, soldier?
Yeah, and he says Adam.
Now, we didn't mention this earlier, but the naming of Adam, like Henry specifically notes, well, it sounds like it's from the Bible, but it's not really. This is the Adam it's coming from.
Yeah. So then back in the present, Elizabeth arrives to help and sees this mess, sees this dead girl. Liz is like, she's like ride or die. She's immediately like, all right.
She's a gangster, man. Henry's like, we got to clean this shit up. And she's like, all right, slapping these bodies in bags. Let's go, buddy.
Yeah, they wrap them up in tarps, duct tape around the feet and the head. Like, she's good to go.
She's the MVP for sure.
Henry's like, we're going to take them to Polidori's and bury them out in his backyard. So if anything weird ever comes up, it'll come back on him and not us.
Not us.
So while they are driving to go, so they get there and they start burying him, or burying the two bodies.
Right, but Adam starts twitching.
Mm-hmm. As they're like putting because they put Shelley in first and they put Adam in on top, and then they just start shoveling the dirt in on top of him. We see clips of Henry like clearing out the lab as well. While he's clearing out the lab, we have like dialogue edited over top of Henry and Adam's early days of Henry trying to teach Adam. So it's kind of like he's sad that he had to do this, like he's sort of reliving these memories that were the good times he had with Adam before everything went bad. We also see like more flashbacks of the war and find out that Henry, Adam, the soldier Adam died, but then Henry kept trying and like eventually maybe made some Frankenstein type creatures in the war. Like Adam's not his first attempt at this.
There have been many Adams before, at least a few.
Yeah. And we get like a voiceover of Henry kind of explaining this, and he's like, yeah, when I came back, I told Polidori what I had been doing, and he was
more on board right away.
Yeah, that this could be something that we could really perfect. And so like the Rap X seems like it's Polidori's way of making it seems like probably the creations that he made in the war didn't live long. They didn't, he was able to revive people, but it didn't last, and that Polidori's contribution is this Rap X that makes it more permanent. That's the connection that they have there. After they've buried, like, this scene is very montagey where it's like kind of the time jumps back and forth, but ultimately they finish burying the bodies and they decide to go up to the house and talk to Polidori.
Yeah, let's pay him a visit, right?
Yeah.
But Polidori is busy tonight with his in-laws.
Mm-hmm.
And a very uncomfortable dinner.
Yeah.
We can tell right away the dad, I believe his name is Anton, does not like Polidori. He's like, my son-in-law.
It seems like he owns the pharmaceutical company that Polidori either does work for in a lower... Yeah. He works at like a lower level and wants to impress his father-in-law and move up in the ranks, and so he keeps talking about Rap X, that like this is the thing that's you're finally gonna be proud of me and want me to be a bigger part of your company once you see what we're accomplishing.
Right. But stop focusing on Rap X. That's a pipe dream. What else does he assign him? He's like, this other thing, that's the way. Focus on that.
Then there's a knock at the door, and it's Henry and Liz. Polidori's like, this is my partner in my research, and this is my father-in-law, and they're kind of awkwardly introducing everybody.
He's like, oh yeah, you were in med school with Henry. And turns out they were all in med school together, right? Georgina being Polidori's wife.
Yeah, so that's where they all met and kind of like connected. And it seems like Georgie's parents like Henry more than they like Polidori.
Right. Well, isn't that the way of things, right?
Right, yeah. Mm-hmm. And so the whole time Polidori keeps like, he's like, you should hear what we're doing. Like, it's amazing work. Like, just listen to our pitch. And like, Henry's
Mom
not
and Dad
really
are
interested.
we got to go home. It's late.
Yeah. And while all that's going on, Liz is like, hey, where's the bathroom? And then just starts searching the house, like ultimately finding Henry's laptop. And, she's trying to like sneak that out of there. But Georgie comes in and finds her. Is like, what are you doing? And she's like, this is Henry's stuff. Polidori stole it. I'm just taking it back.
Yeah, and she's like, of course he stole it. Why do you think he wouldn't steal it? That's insurance, baby.
Yeah, it's one of the, like, Liz is kind of being like, you probably don't know how much of a monster your husband is, and George is like, oh yeah, exactly. I 100% do. That's how we can afford this house. I know my husband's awful. Like, I'm fine with that. So clearly she is like as corrupt as and of course her dad clearly owns this big pharmaceutical company. She probably grew up in an evil, corrupt family, and she's used to this.
Right. But she's
so
like, listen, once we get the Rap X out there, it'll be golden rainbows. We'll all be rich.
And at that point, Polidori and Henry come walking into the room as well. They're like, what's going on here? And Henry's like, Adam's dead. He's not lost. We killed him. Like, it's over. Everything's over. The experiment's gone.
Right. Liz bashes the hard drive, tries to bash the hard drive.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, that's not how that works. That'll still be recoverable. Sorry.
Right. Yeah, and Polidori is very upset about that everything's falling apart, but he's like, we're still going to make big money off this. Just because Adam's gone, that's not the end of everything.
And then that's when Polidori's like, okay, we got to clean out the loft. Got to make sure everything's cool. Nobody can find anything. Well, job's already done, basically.
Yeah, we've already taken care of all that. And he's like, okay, that's good. And Liz is like, all right, well, then it sounds like everything's done. We'll just leave and part ways and won't see each other ever again. And Polidori's
try to get on a train or bus or get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, and he's like, you're not going to be able to get out of town tonight. It's too late. There's a storm. We're still friends. Like, just stay the night. It'll be fine.
No. Not after ruining that guy's life. It's not going to be fine.
Right. And
I would be like, nah, man, I'm out. You're going to have to hunt me down.
And somehow, like, Henry's like, all right, yeah, that's fine. And Liz is like, okay, fine.
Well, Georgina even says, I'm going to bed. Liz, if you're smart, you'll go to bed right now. So that you'll die peacefully in your sleep.
Right.
And
instead of everybody going to bed, which would be the smart thing to do, we just see later Henry and Polidori are, like, standing around the pool table. They've had quite a bit to drink, and
cocaine to do about it.
Mm-hmm. And they're talking about the experiments and everything. And Polidori's like, we could start over. We could do this all over again. You know more now. We can do it better. We can do it right. I'm your Igor. We'll work together.
You're my Frankenstein. You're Frankenstein. Henry Frankenstein, like in the movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You'll be the Frankenstein of the Hudson.
And... he's like, you needed all those parts. I was able to get them. Like, I'll find more stuff. It'll be perfect. And then we see out in the woods, it's storming, and it's all like weird red tinted. And Adam bursts out of the ground, goes into the
Evil Dead-like, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like the camera's weird and shaky. And then we see like it appears that Adam is like assaulting Liz. But no,
the question is this a dream that Henry's having? In his coke and alcohol-induced stupor?
Yeah, it seems like it, because then like Henry kind of like shoots up like awake, and it's like, oh, it's all a dream. But then he gets up, and there's wet footprints on the ground, and he's like,
oh, maybe it's not a dream.
Yeah, so he follows them, and there's Adam, and he has Liz. So yeah, I'm not sure if he sort of half experienced that, and it wasn't a dream, or if he had a prophetic dream about what was getting ready to happen in reality.
I feel like, here's my interpretation of it. You can tell me, how you feel. I feel like it was, he heard the commotion that was going on between Adam and Liz, and his brain filled in the rest. Mm-hmm. So it was just dream inspired by the outside world.
Yeah, that makes sense. Because I don't think, because the dream-ish part looks like a sexual assault. I don't think that's what Adam did, but that would make sense, that he grabs her, wakes her up, drags her out. She's struggling, crying out, and then Henry's dream mind fills in the details in a worse way than what was really happening. Yeah. I think that's probably the right, or the more accurate interpretation of what's going on there.
I'm hesitant to ever say more accurate, but sure, I appreciate you, Anthony. Thank
And but of course now obviously Adam does have Liz kind of like as a hostage, and Henry's like, please, just let her go. Whatever you need. I understand you're upset, like whatever you need, but like it's not her fault. She doesn't deserve to be punished for anything.
Right. Well, Adam ain't in the fucking around business. He's in the getting things done business, and business is breaking like Liz's neck.
Yep. So she falls down dead, and then Adam and Henry start fighting. They're kind of grappling. They end up like smashing through a window. They're on the second story. It's like a gable kind of situation. So they go out a window, but now they're on the roof, and they end up like rolling off of the roof together.
Before it looks like Adam's about to kill Henry, and Henry's like, "No, this is Polidori's doing. This is his fault." And immediately, Polidori like starts waking up, grabs his gun. He's like, "I'm fucking shit up now. This is my killing time."
Because he says something like, "Polidori killed who you were," and Adam's like, "Yeah, but you made me who I am."
He's right.
Yeah. And then inside, like, so Georgie wakes up and is like, "I'm gonna call the like this. You've brought bad stuff into our house, Polidori. Like, I'm gonna call the police."
Well, it's like Polidori is looking for. By the way, I think his name is John or Don.
I think it's John. John was the real Polidori's name, so
right. It has to be. But he's looking in their room. He's looking in Henry's room, presumably to kill Henry.
Mm-hmm.
But that's when Georgina sneaks up on him. He points the gun. She's like, "Oh, what are you gonna do? Shoot me?" Mm-hmm. Well.
Yep, he is.
Yep.
Has no second thoughts about killing his wife. And then continues to search the house for Henry. He's having trouble finding him, but he finds a vintage crossbow on display and is like, that might be more fun to kill Henry than just a regular gun.
Yeah, well, it's also almost like a cat and mouse game, right? That he thinks he's just playing with Henry. Mm-hmm. As the audience, we're kind of like, oh no, that's Adam. You're playing with Adam now.
Yeah. He ends up finding Henry, and it's like he's getting ready to attack. Well,
but also, as he's getting that crossbow, he taunts him. He's like, "See, Henry, you're thinking like this is the war, but you were never a soldier. Real soldiers are like hunters." And it's like, no, not really, no.
No.
I mean, they're not mutually exclusive either, but okay.
Yeah. Adam kind of sneaks up behind Polidori, but he manages to turn and fires, hits him with a crossbow bolt.
Yeah, a couple times. Mm-hmm. That's pretty quick reload for Polidori, by the way. Good for him.
Yeah. Adam kind of falls down, so now Polidori and Henry are fighting. And, I think the crossbow gets knocked away, and it looks like Henry's doing better, but then we hear a gunshot, and Polidori still had the gun and got it into Henry's stomach, and so he's now gut shot.
Yep.
While Henry's kind of dying from this wound, we get more flashbacks, more memories of, Adam and Henry in the early days, him, teaching him things and training him and everything. This movie is definitely all about the way that our memories shape us and continue to come back to haunt us later in life and, affect us in new ways as we reinterpret the past and everything. And, so a little bit ago we had Adam angry at Henry, but now that Henry's dying and reliving the good times, Adam goes to him and says, "Don't go. I want you here." And Henry is like, "Please forgive me. I should have done better." So they're both appreciating each other in this, these final moments.
Yeah, and that would be sweet if Polidori didn't fucking ruin it by pretty much grabbing everything to leave and being like, "All right, now here's my villain monologue. Yeah, sure, I killed you. It's technically my fault. But I'm going to burn the house down with you with it, and they'll just blame you." It's like, would they though? But
so then we get a really great sort of montagey moment where Adam is walking towards Polidori down this hallway, and it cuts back and forth between Adam now with, in clothes and long hair and everything, and the Adam newly naked, shaved head Adam walking down a hallway, and it's cut back and forth so well that it's sort of seamless. And the whole time, really cool. You said, Polidori is still monologuing, and he's like, "Yeah, I killed Alex. I'm the one that made you who you are. But it doesn't matter because you're going to be blamed for all of this. You're the monster here, not me." And
then, of course, because Polidori, he may talk a lot, but he doesn't really fuck around. He just shoots Adam, presumably killing him.
Yeah, so Adam falls down. Polidori walks outside. The house is burning down. So Polidori kind of stands there for a second, watches the house, and is like, "All right, everything's. I'm going to be in the clear. It's going to look like a house fire.
All the loose ends are tied up."
Yep. So he gets in his SUV to drive away, and suddenly the driver's side window breaks open, and there's Adam. He's punched through the glass.
We get the horror movie scare from the good guy side this time.
Yep, it's great. And he immediately grabs the steering wheel and turns it and causes the car to crash into a tree, and then just drags Polidori out of the SUV.
And I love how Polidori keeps trying to talk his way out of the whole situation. He's like, "We'll get rich, we'll rebuild everything. It'll be great, I'll take care of you, Adam. You'll be fine. You'll have so much Rap-X you won't, you'll never have to worry about it ever again."
Yeah, and at some point, is he just yelling for help, or does he get his phone out and start? Because he's like, "I'm being attacked. Help me! Somebody help!"
Well, yeah, he just starts screaming it out, but then Adam starts forcing the Rap-X down his throat.
Mm-hmm.
And then he throws him over the side of the cliff.
Yeah.
So here's the question, though: if he does that, would that make it to where Polidori just kept living after presumably all of his bones are broken?
I wondered the same thing. I kind of thought we would get a shot of a badly broken Polidori stuck in a tree, just alive forever. But yeah,
that'd be poetic.
But the best part about this scene is as he's throwing Polidori over, we hear Henry's voice say, "Gravity is your friend."
It is?
Yep. So, obviously Adam learned. And then we just get kind of Adam running through fields. He's being chased by police with dogs.
Now, is he giving the monologue that the creature gives to Victor in the house in the Alps? Because it feels that way.
Yeah, I think this is it feels similar, but it's I think it's unique to this. I wrote it down because it's so good. The last bit of this, it's a lot of kind of montage stuff, and the whole thing has this voiceover from the monster, where he says, "I came into this world filled with wonder. I didn't know how I'd come to be. I turned to the people around me to ask for help in making my way, but now I know that each was only thinking of themselves. They made mistakes, and then I became just like them. And now they hate me, and now they hunt me. So I will hide and disappear and learn not to care, because this is what they have taught me."
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so that whole thing is, it goes on for a while as we're seeing him chased by dogs. He eventually finds a river and jumps in, or we don't actually see him jump in. It's just we see him running, and we see the dogs after him. And then the camera kind of pans over and back, and we see the dogs and the police have arrived at a river, and that, of course, ends the scent trail for the dogs. But we don't see Adam. So presumably he has dived in, but we do not see it.
Right. But we cut to Lucy getting a coffee for a gentleman, and presumably she's moved on.
Yeah, it seems like it's her coworker or something, but it seems like they're close. Yeah. And he's like, "Hey, while you were gone, somebody had this dropped this off for you."
This really creepy tall dude.
Yeah, and she's like, "What?" So she opens this envelope, and inside is the necklace. And she's like, "Wait, who was it?" And he was like, "Yeah, just some creepy guy. Where is he? When was this?" And he was like, "It was just a minute ago. He just left." Right. So she, takes off running outside to try to find Alex. Only Alex would have this. She's running through this crowd trying to find him. And so the beginning of the movie, when we had the shot of their food and them having sex and everything, there was this song playing. There was kind of this sort of sweet romantic song. I wasn't familiar with it, but just a woman singing, and just a pretty song. And the song's playing again, but it's now it has this melancholic sort of tinge because we know everything she's lost. And so yeah, she's just running and looking, and eventually she realizes it's too late. I've lost him. She just kind of collapses on the sidewalk and just sitting there, sobbing. clutching the necklace, crying. And then we do see off in the distance Adam turns back, looks at her once, and then
he gives her the Incredible Hulk walking away.
Look. Yeah. Walks off into the park.
Can we talk about how dirty this woman was done?
It's
so first off, she loses the guy she's clearly planning to spend the rest of her life with. Okay? He's gone. possibly 30 days later, she just gets a random call from his phone.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, then a day or two later, she gets the necklace she's given to this guy.
Mm-hmm. And then
She
presumably
gets fucked
never...
with.
Yeah, and that's it. Like, presumably Adam is saying his goodbye to her in his own way and will never see her again. So now she is left with more questions than answers, you know, like...
Versus literally just being there and saying, hey, now I'm this, like, kind of freak dude. Or not freak, but I'm a monstrous guy, you know? So maybe we can start over or maybe we're done. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, at least she could have had closure then, you know, like...
Yeah.
And you know, that I'm sure that would have been a whole new movie of like, I don't believe you, where's my actual... But like that could have been, you know, at least she would have felt like she was onto something rather than just like, is my fiance's killer taunting me for some reason now, or
right.
has he just decided to leave me, or what? Like, it could be anything. Yeah, Lucy suffers in this movie hard, like,
for no reason.
Mm-hmm. Like the most completely innocent character in the whole movie, and just like has it the worst.
Yeah. Awful. But the movie's good, so
yeah. It's a really beautiful retelling of the story for like a modern time. You know, like we were saying, the war angle is really great. Like, should be explored more. It's done really well here. And I like Adam. The relationship between Adam and Henry is one of the best, most like complex and sympathetic relationships we've seen between a creator and a creation. Where, like, you know, Henry is not a victor who just doesn't care and gives up on his creature immediately. He's not perfect either. He's like a parent who is figuring it out and is like,
right.
I made this thing, and now I have to figure out how to be there for it in the best way and teach it how to live in this world and everything.
And to a degree, he is looking out for the creature's well-being, more or less. It's just if he didn't have a shitty friend by the name of Polidori, it probably would have went better. But also, it probably wouldn't have happened to begin with, so who knows?
True. Yeah, like, if you go back to that whole, like, monologue at the end... Like, it really describes all of our experiences, which is why we're so attached to this movie. But, like, we all come into this world not knowing how we got here. We just are here suddenly. We turn to the people around us for help. And the people around us, they let us down because they're all human. They're all fallible. They make mistakes. And then we carry on and make the same mistakes because that's what we saw. You know, we pick up from what our parents and the people around us, our teachers, our friends and family, you know, things they show us, and then we eventually pass that on to the people around us because that's what they've taught us, you know. So, like, I think it's such a beautiful summation of the story and of life in general and why I'm so obsessed with Frankenstein. Like, it really sums it all up quite well.
Fair enough.
This is one that is kind of the opposite of an abrupt ending. It's a really it's very, put together.
Right. It's a very, I wouldn't say necessarily complete ending, but it does kind of tie it up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like we were, you know, the Lucy's situation, like, I feel like there are many, many questions for her, but, like, Adam's story has come to a conclusion in terms of that world and that life that he's moving past. So yeah, it leaves enough open for us to be like, I wonder what would have happened if this had gone on instead, or I wonder what happens with Lucy next. But yeah, it's satisfying and also unsatisfying in that way that makes you keep thinking about the movie, which is a great feeling, you know, like a movie that you want to keep chewing on for a few days. Like that's a great movie. Yeah.
And honestly, it's a crime that this doesn't get as much of a mention as Jacob's Wife by Larry Fessenden.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, I don't think he wrote it, but he was acting in it. But
yeah.
Still, come on.
Yeah, I mean, he's done a lot of good stuff, and like it does seem like the stuff that he acts in gets more attention than the stuff he directs. But yeah, like it seems like this should have gotten quite a bit more attention than it did.
Yeah, because it's even elevated, elevated horror.
Yeah. I mean, it really does. It has a message, but it's not like hitting you over the head with a message. It's a really thoughtful, well put together movie. that, builds on a story that we all know and love, and, uses it to kind of make you think a little bit. And yeah, you can't really ask for more than that.
Well, Anthony, so I mean, we've dealt with some no telling, which sounds really bad if you put it in a certain context, and then some depravity. Well, maybe we should do something a little bit more literary, something based on maybe a book.
Yeah. So, so next week, every now and then we do all these different movies, but every now and then we got to go back to just talking about a movie called Frankenstein, and that's what we're going to do next week. There's a lot of movies called Frankenstein, so we're specifically talking about this is a TV movie that is based on the Dean Koontz novelization, like sequels to the Frankenstein story. There's a reason we're doing it. We'll get into that. We've got some other stuff planned around, perhaps planned around that book. We'll discuss that later. But yeah, it's time to talk about another just straight up Frankenstein, and excited to get into it.
Heck yeah! All right. Well, where can they find us, Anthony?
So you can find us on all of the socials at The Frankencast. You can email us at thefrankencast@gmail.com. We're also over on YouTube, and you can find us at patreon.com/thefrankencast, where we're still doing the free trials. We've got a lot of fun stuff over there. We've been doing some comic books, some old TV shows, just other odds and ends. We're having a good time over there, and we'd love to have you.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. All right. Well, anything else we got to say?
I think that's it.
Well, in that case, to be continued. That was my best impression of the old Dr. Polidori.
Looks like you survived another episode. The Frankencast is a production of FCR Media. It's hosted by Anthony Bowman and Eric Velasquez. Follow us on Twitter at The Frankencast, or send us a letter at thefrankencast@gmail.com. Our cover art is by Amanda Keller. You can find her at Keller Illustrations on Instagram. Our theme music is by Vivek Abhishek. Thanks for listening.